Welcome to another edition of the MDM podcast. I'm Mike Hockett, our executive editor. Ever since 2020, so much of the labor discussion in distribution has centered on culture and its role in attracting and retaining talent. Back in 2017, I visited a distributor that's leveraged its culture better than any company I know of, Packer Fastener. The Green Bay, Wisconsin-based supplier of OEM fastener products was founded in 1998 by Terry Albrecht when he was just 22 years old. He's led the company ever since, now serving as its CEO as of early February. Terry joined me on the podcast to discuss how Packer Fastener's culture of swagger has powered an incredible word-of-mouth reputation for the company, leading to a retention rate well over 90% and a steady pipeline of youthful talent that comes largely by referral. Enjoy. Terry, thanks for joining the MDM podcast.
Mike, great to be here.
Well, I visited you guys at Packer Fastener at the company's Green Bay headquarters back in November of 2017. And then I did a follow-up story with you guys in early 2020 when I was at a previous publication. So I already know a fair amount about the ins and outs of the company, but I've always thought the company has a great story to tell and has been ahead of the game when it comes to leveraging culture and fostering an environment where especially young people want to work. So let's begin with a little bit of background on how you co-founded this company back in 1998 when you were just 22 years old. Can you take me through how Packer Fastener got off the ground back then and what it was like in those early days?
Yeah, Mike, shucks, I'm a simple country kid from a small town in Northeast Wisconsin. And my first job was working in a hardware store when I was 14 years old. And let's see, I'm 48 now, so that means I've been selling hardware for about 34 years. I wish I had every opportunity to work in that hardware store the rest of my entire career. That was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, sans the one I currently have. But when I went off to college, I was approached by a company called Fastenal at a job fair. Fastenal sold hardware, but they sold it to businesses. And I thought, well, this might make some sense. So I went and cut my teeth at Fastenal. I absolutely love the industry. Fastenal is a fantastic company. I just was not cut out to work for $1 billion company. I'm a small town kid through and through. And so one day, literally, like all great success stories, over beers, myself and two of my fellow salesmen said, hey, you know what? We think there's an opportunity here that might exist for us to hang our own shingle. And so that was 1998. We did it and we never looked back. I was 22 years old. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. It's good sometimes not to know everything. I remember we started, I sat down and I wrote a check to our landlord. Our first location was 1,600 square feet. Our rent was $500 a month, and I had to pay a $500 security deposit. And I wrote out a check for $1,000, and it was the largest check I'd ever written in my life to date. And then, we started on day one. We didn't have an ERP system. We didn't have a software system. We didn't have any shelving. We didn't have any phones. So we didn't even have a Post-it note, and we certainly didn't have any customers. So we just bootstrapped it, Mike. We had very, very humble beginnings and really got by based on a lot of grit and determination. Everything we bought was used and secondhand. It was certainly not flashy, but it was functional. And some of that simplicity and just gritty work ethic carries on to this company now 25 years later.
You guys have certainly grown, I want to say exponentially since that time. When I visited in 2017, the company it was either 5 or 6 branch locations. This past October, it opened its 10th branch, which was in Mendota, Minnesota, just south of the Twin Cities. And that marked the 4th edition in an 18-month stretch. So a lot of growth pretty recently here. What has it been like managing that much, physical expansion in such a short amount of time?
Mike, and we'll touch on this, I know, later, and I'll go back to culture time and time again. The culture that we have developed here and enhanced over the years has made that possible. We've got a strong group of emerging leaders who we're just empowering to go out there and do great things. We're giving them the support, and we're just out there executing out in the trenches day in and day out. We've got a vision of geographic expansion. The market is there for us, and so now it's a matter of being smart, being strategic, and just continuing to execute on a fairly aggressive cadence. It's part of our story. It's part of our culture. We're aggressive and growth oriented, and we need to continue to put strong efforts towards, expanding into new markets.
All right. Well, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the MDM podcast was because of what I already knew about the company's talent pipeline that I learned from that 2017 visit and the follow-up Q&A I did in 2020. Back then, looking to 2017, you and the leadership team, you guys told me about how the company had a very strong word of mouth element that helped give it that steady pipeline of interested candidates. And at the time, the company had only had to post a single job opening in its then 30-year history. But even so, I have to imagine that even those distributors that were in fantastic shape from a labor standpoint, they haven't been immune to today's challenges as far as the current just labor situation in distribution. So can you touch on how Packer Fastener is faring in that area and its current efforts to, recruit and retain talent?
Yeah, of course, Mike, this is at the forefront of our thoughts. We're a people-centric, people-focused company, so we will only be able to grow as fast as our ability to recruit and develop and empower good people. It's more challenging now than it ever has been. The game has changed, but I think we're playing it better than most. When you were here, Mike, 2017, 2020, I'm guessing we probably had about 80 team members. Mm-hmm. We are now at 160, and we have one job opening in the entire company. So we are basically at full staff. We're still getting, I don't have the data in front of me, 95% of our people via referral. It is first and foremost our number one pipeline for adding talent. We've got a great story. We've got a lot of people that have started. It was funny. I was actually looking at this. I think of our 20, I'm going to call drivers in the organization, senior leaders, territory level leaders. Of the 20, 17 of them started in our warehouse at $15 an hour or less. And we've got an incredible story to tell. We've got a fairly robust development program in-house, and we're able to continue to feed our system by good, talented, culturally aligned people going out and telling their friends. And that's been key to our secret sauce and what has led to at least some level of our success. So again, is it harder? Yeah. Is the game changing? Yeah. You got to play the game a little different. You got to realize that, you got to start looking and planning further ahead than you used to have to. It seemed like we used to have an opportunity and we'd get 3 potential referrals for one opportunity. Well, maybe it's just 1-to-1 now, but hell, that's still better than most. So we feel very fortunate and very blessed, but we've also worked really hard at it for an extended period of time.
Definitely. Even our recent research on, just how distributors are faring with talent and recruitment, that research tells us it's still very tough out there for distributors. And like you said, some are doing it much better than others right now. I think some are still playing catch up, whereas others kind of got ahead of the game early. So yeah, I think Packer Fastener has just been one of those kind of interesting case studies about how you guys, were ahead of the game before the whole labor shift happened here. Many distributors on that note are trying to figure out how to better cultivate a desired culture and then communicate that culture both inside and outside the organization. And at Packer Fastener, you guys refer to your culture as your swagger, and it's something you've consistently used in your marketing as, the ethos of the company. For those executives looking to enhance their culture or maybe establish one in the first place, what advice would you have just in terms of walking the walk and showing that you are a people first company rather than just saying it?
Yeah, like I know most people listening to this probably have no idea who we are, but we call our culture our swagger. But you have to remember that comes from the company whose tagline is "We've got the biggest nuts in town." So we're not scared to have a little bravado in how we approach business. Our culture, we're very intentional about our culture. The reality is every organization has a culture. It's a matter of, is it the culture you want, and are you cultivating that culture? I'm going to take you back probably about a decade. We were early adapters to this theory of intentional culture, or the philosophy. I went and saw a speaker. His name was David Friedman, and David Friedman really educated me on what culture meant. Culture can be a little bit ambiguous. People think it might be, beanbag chairs and espresso and free lunches. But really, Friedman educated me that culture is how your team behaves on a day-to-day and consistent basis. I went, wow, well, that's powerful, right? What are the shared behaviors that you expect and hold your team accountable to? So I left Friedman, and Friedman also stressed that if you're going to have an intentional culture, you need to document it. If it's not written down, oftentimes your culture will sway to the most influential or loudest people in the room. And so I thought that was fairly profound. So I left in circa, 2013-ish, the Friedman presentation, and I went, you know what? I am so smart. I am going to write down our culture. I'm going to write down these shared behaviors that make us successful and make this an enjoyable place to work. And Mike, I got through like the third one, and I went, Terry, this is really silly. If your culture, our culture, is as strong as I perceived it, why don't I just ask the team members that work here? And so I sent out an email and I said, hey, don't write me a novel, but the 30 of you who work here, can you give me one or two reasons why you like coming to work every day and why you think we're successful? And so I got the results back, Mike, and 30 people say 3 responses each is about 190-ish. And I started to read through them and I went, holy cow, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. There was so much consistency in how people answered that question that we really just wordsmith those 90 responses back in 2013 into 13 shared behaviors that we call our culture. And we put it onto a document. And at the next company meeting, quarterly or annual, I don't even remember, I brought that out and I said to our team, I was like, hey, you guys remember that silly survey I had you send out or respond to me on? I said, these are the responses. This is what you think are the reasons why we're successful and why you enjoy coming to work every single day. These are the behaviors that we need to protect going forward at all costs if we want Packer to be the same 10 years from now that it is, as in its existence back in 13. And so the buy-in for culture was really simple for me because the team defined our culture. It wasn't Terry, it wasn't me putting it on a wall and holy cow, this whole to-do. This was just very organic and it existed. I think, Mike, if I hold up our culture right now, it's like me looking in a mirror. Like that defines me through and through. And it's on our website. Anybody wants to check out packerfastener.com. We share it to the general public, our customers and prospects. But that just defines me. And to me as a leader, that was really powerful because maybe I had some influence or impact on the team that I was surrounded by every day. By the way, fast forward to today, those 30 people, Mike, are now in leadership positions across the company, across the Midwest. And those people are out there and they are our biggest culture ambassadors. So we have found a way to organically continue our culture and cultivating it where I would say it's actually stronger today than it was a decade ago. And that's amazing because our scale is, 5x with the number of team members that we have. If you walked around our facilities, we don't have our culture on any of our walls. We don't send out an email every week or every month. And I know companies do, right? They want to reinforce it. Our culture is just real and you can't fake real. Now, we pride ourselves on our retention rate. Our retention rate is really high. We're north of 95%. The people that don't make it here are bad cultural fits. We don't bat 1,000, but if somebody joins a team and we are out of cultural alignment, it takes no more than 3 months for that to get snuffed out. And we react very, very quickly because we realize if we tolerate bad cultural fits, we might as well throw the whole thing away. So you talk about a very tough hiring environment right now. Well, also set really high expectations on what the culture that you're going to hold yourself accountable to is. It makes it exponentially difficult. But when you can be north of 95% retention, you don't have to hire as many people. So it actually, really works to our benefit by having those really high standards from a cultural standpoint. I mean, shoot, Mike, we sell nuts and bolts. We can teach people almost anything that we do, right? We can't teach them to be culture alignment or culture ambassadors.
At all the distribution industry events I attended in 2022, a lot of the discussion was around combating the labor issues. Some of the ways to combat that was by showing millennials and Gen Z candidates that there is a career path, that they're not just joining the company to take a warehouse job or a driving job or just a sales position. And Packer Fastener has had its Achieving Hexcellence, which refers back to a hex nut, Achieving Hexcellence development program in place for, I think it's at least 5 years now, which coaches employees through a path towards a leadership position, like you mentioned. And I think that was really ahead of the game in terms of the workforce development that distributors are now just trying to integrate and really kind of illustrate to their workforce. So you already touched on this a little bit, but how has Packer Fastener's employee development evolved just these past few years, post-pandemic?
Yeah, Mike, as I alluded to earlier, we have a really high number of internal leaders in this organization that have, quote unquote, climbed the ranks. And we sat down 5 years ago as we noticed this trend, and we're like, how do we take somebody, or what has been the career path of somebody starting in the warehouse at that time, $12 an hour, and going out and running a multi-million-dollar business unit, in Eau Claire or Madison or Rockford. And we were kind of able to identify what was successful in career advancement here, and then try to replicate and scale that to the point that as the company continued to grow, we made a senior leadership position that sits on our leadership team of a director of people to continue to ensure that stayed on the forefront. So, there's HR, tactical HR, but we really view HR as a strategic initiative in our organization. And we also try to merge that with marketing. I know a lot of people look at marketing as customer facing, but we look at it as ensuring that we're able to tell our story outside of our four walls. That we can tell the story that I think today it's probably 15 or $16 an hour, but within 3 to 4 years, we can have you out there running a branch in a new territory and developing, your own multi-million-dollar business unit. I think ultimately what it boils down to, Mike, is I'm very passionate about people development, and every new hire I sit down with for at least an hour and share our story and share based on, back this up a little bit. One of the key steps in our excellence program is behavioral sciences. I'm certified in behavioral sciences. I firmly believe in them. I meet with every new hire and we go over their behavioral assessment, and we try to pinpoint where their gifts are, basically where their strengths are, but we call them gifts, and then look at a career plan that would maximize those gifts. And if we find that we can achieve optimal role alignment in the long term, we end up with a highly engaged and highly satisfied team member who ultimately ends up being a high performer. And so when I sit down, we're talking within the first week, they're meeting with the owner of the company, and I'm not that special, but my title makes it sound like I am. But you're showing that we believe in you and we're invested in your future. And this is somebody who's starting out to pick nuts and bolts at $15 an hour. But that meeting, I think, sets the tone for the next 10 to 20 years of their career here. It's amazing what people are capable of when somebody believes in them and somebody supports them. And we try to get that message delivered very, very early in somebody's career here. So basically, by week 3, we're trying to put together your career plan. And that can be powerful because a lot of times we're getting like this. I stopped paying attention to what generation we're even on now, but it's not the generation's fault. We're getting this workforce that has some shortcomings, but it's not their fault. It's the environment, it's their surroundings. Now we throw a pandemic on there. They're a little bit broken. And as leaders, we need to help fix that. We need to help give them clarity. We need to believe in them. And man, they can do some amazing things.
Like you said, I think showing that roadmap so early on, that is really powerful, because I think there's a lot of, people around my age or just Gen Z, millennial age, that they join a company and they just don't know, or do they just have to sit around and wait to see if, a position's going to open up for them to grow into or something like that. Whereas you guys have kind of taken the reverse, like you're showing them that potential roadmap very early on. So that can be very powerful. And industrial distribution, even with all the just kind of demographic shifts, it's still overall a largely kind of baby boomer driven industry. But Packer Fastener is a youth-driven company, as you touched on. I believe this is still the case that you and all the leadership team are all under 50 years old. And I know that as of 2018, the average age of an employee there was just 28 years old. And that's essentially unheard of in the distribution space. And I have to think that that itself helps in recruiting other, just fellow younger candidates out there, knowing that they're going to be working around other young employees, rather than being, the 20-something age person on a team of a bunch of people that are 40 years old and above. So how is all that experience with hiring and recruiting young candidates over the past, 30 years now? How has, being constantly around young people, how has that just itself organically helped more young people want to come and work at Packer Fastener?
Yeah, we feel very fortunate, Mike, right? We are, I got to be careful, right? HR would probably slap my hands, but we're a young company. But I think more importantly, man, we got a lot of energy, right? And that energy, some of it has come from the spirit of the youth and the spirit of the recent success we have. I think one of the most powerful things in business is momentum. And we've got momentum in spades right now. To your point, I am the oldest person on our senior leadership team. I just turned 48 a couple months ago. If we looked at our average age, I had ran the stat for you, Mike. We were like 28 in 2017, and now we're all like 5 years older, so we're like 33 or 34. Mm-hmm. But we still continue to find this young talent. Well, again, it's part of our story, right? We're telling our story. First, I'll say good people know good people. So we really rely on our feeder system of referrals. Also, good cultural fits know good cultural fits. My mother always told me, Terry, you're a combination of the 5 people you hang around with most. So pick your friends close wisely. And that was brilliant. And the same thing can be said about the referral system. But what we're finding, Mike, is, again, we have become a bit of a magnet for these kids. And I call them kids. They're adults, right? Who maybe they don't know what they want to do with the rest of their life. They're not ready to go to college. Maybe they go to technical school. Maybe they don't. But they don't have a lot of direction with where they want to go with their life. And the next thing you know, they're talking to their friends. And their friends say, hey, this place at Packer Fastener did a behavioral assessment on me. And they think I could be a future leader or a branch manager. And it piques interest, right? It piques interest that maybe we can offer opportunity. And ultimately, that's what we can do. And we rely on that, staying disciplined to that, to feed our pipeline of young talent. If you walked around here, I mean, shoot, we've got a lot of 20-somethings that, as I just look outside my office here, and we love to harness that, the power of the youth, right? The energy. Yeah. Fun place to be. There's more laughing and joking and hijinks that go around this place than any other place I've ever been around.
I think just overall, it's just different. It's a different environment than most of these other small, mid-sized distributors that I've walked into. And that's not to take anything away from those other distributors. I'm sure what they're doing works for them, but it's just different seeing such a youth-driven company here in the industrial distribution space. I did want to touch quick on how Packer Fastener is currently handling, the hybrid work environment out there. There's still a lot of distributors that a lot of their office staff, they're letting work from home. Others have fully embraced, like, their staff want to be back at work, and that's what they're doing. So I was wondering, what's the current situation at Packer Fastener? Is there a sort of hybrid environment, or is the vast majority of everyone back, at the facilities?
Yeah, so I'm like one step away from Elon Musk in my philosophy on this. I believe in butts in the seat. It's part of our culture. Work from home, hybrid. I think you lose collaboration, you lose communication, you lose idea generation, you lose energy, you lose momentum. So we were safe through COVID, but we brought everybody back as quickly as we possibly could. That's just who we are. So now, that being said, right, we do offer flexibility. I'm certainly not a tyrant, thus I'm one step away from Elon. But we firmly believe we want everybody inside the 4 walls, just because we thrive in a team atmosphere.
You've always been a fitness nut, and I know you've incorporated your passion for that into the company's culture. And I should let our audience know that Packer Fastener's headquarters branch in Green Bay, Wisconsin, it has a legitimate gym there. And, this isn't just a workbench and, a treadmill in there just for people to use. I mean, this thing, I want to say, rivals a Gold's Gym. It's a legit facility in there that rivals just some small fitness clubs. From what I remember, it was around, I want to say 40 by 40 feet or so. It's got tall ceilings, fully stocked with weight benches, squat racks, cardio equipment, anything that you would find at a modern gym. And I have to think that that itself it can be a recruitment tool. When I think of anyone that likes to work out on a regular basis, to be able to do that, just to finish the day, walk down the hall, get your workout in and go home, that is a major perk, from my perspective. So just, can you touch on how you've incorporated or promoted that physical fitness element, not only at the Green Bay location, but culture wide throughout Packer Fastener? Just how does that part of the culture tie in?
So if you look at one of our cultural behaviors, it's live healthy. Fitness is a big part of my life. Fitness is and wellness, overall wellness, mental and physical, is just something I'm very passionate about. And as a leader, Mike, if I can offer the opportunity to engage someone in a healthy lifestyle at 20-something years old, and that prevents them from falling over dead at 40-something year old from a heart attack or something preventable, that's good for that person, right? That's good for their family. That's also good for Packer Fastener, because we've got a seasoned 20-year vet that's probably out there kicking butt. So again, part of the beauty of being in a leadership position and having influence over the culture and influence over the team is we feel that what we can do inside of our four walls can go way beyond these four walls. We can help create a healthier population. We can create strong leaders inside the organization that can go and be strong leaders in their families and strong leaders in their communities and strong leaders in whatever facet of life they participate in. So we take the responsibility of that very, very seriously. Now with scaling it gets to be a little challenging when you have 10 locations and you can't put, a 2,000 square foot Gold's Gym in every one of them, much as we would like to. So we do health gym reimbursements. Everybody in the company is eligible to get, I don't know, $60 a month or something if they join a gym, and most importantly, if they use that gym, right, where there's accountability that comes with it. And then we also have an online platform. I believe it's called Well Steps, that allows everybody to be connected. We can participate in challenges. You can earn rewards, which you can cash in for gift cards and prizes. So we keep it at the forefront.
Yeah, I just thought that was such a cool element of that Green Bay location. You just, you walk in this door down, it's right next to your guys' just kind of open sales office. You go down the hall and there's just this immaculate gym there that you can do whatever you would want to in there.
Did you have the golf simulator at that time, or has that been added?
No, not yet. It's just another perk. Yeah.
It's another perk. It's something that helps you stand out. And again, it speaks to our culture. I mean, if guys want to go swing the sticks on the weekend, come down to the shop, use golf simulator. It's just those intangibles. We're very blessed to be able to offer things like that.
It's very cool. Switching gears here a little bit, Packer Fastener's e-commerce platform launched in February of 2018, which I figure put you guys into an even better position going into the pandemic. And when I last checked in with you guys in January of 2020, I believe the company mentioned somewhere that e-commerce comprised about 5% of the company's revenue stream at that time. Can you touch on how the company's e-commerce offering has grown since then and improved over these past few years?
So interestingly enough, Mike, it's been flat. So we have posted 40% growth year over year in 2022, and then 20% or 40% growth the previous year. But yet our e-commerce sales proportionate remains stable. And I think this is interesting though, right? So we go to market as a people first company. Now, e-commerce is a convenience that we offer our customers, but we're not an online company. We are a boots on the ground, out there building relationships with our customer, value added distributor. So I think there's opportunity that exists, and we need to make sure we capitalize on that. But we're going to be more of a, what's the term, clicks to bricks or bricks to clicks type e-commerce alternative. We don't want to be an e-commerce company, but we realize the relevance, and we want to try to be able to meld that with our expanding geographic footprint.
Yeah, and that's kind of a common thread that I hear a lot. A lot of these kind of old school based distributors, they add e-commerce, not that they expected it to explode right after they implemented it, but they've seen, they get a little bit of their revenue stream comes from e-commerce, but overall it tends to level off and stay pretty level. So it's definitely a common thing that I'm hearing out there. Similarly, Packer Fastener's national sales unit launched in 2018, which has undoubtedly supported that e-commerce platform and just the business overall. While you guys are still a Midwest-based distributor, what can you say about how its national presence has grown since that launch in 2018?
Mike, so we started, in Green Bay, Wisconsin back in 1998. Now about approaching 10% of our business happens outside of the state of Wisconsin. So we're still highly concentrated right here in Wisconsin. But our theory on our national sales presence, which is a lot of outbound digital marketing, a lot of outbound telemarketing, is to help build the footprint for our ever expanding brick and mortar expansion plans. So it's more of a long-term strategic play than it is a short-term win. So it kind of is melding into our more longer-term vision. But amazing that we're having a very nice level of success with it.
All right. Well, that's basically everything I had for you here. But I did want to ask, besides e-commerce, national sales, Packer Freight, which we didn't really get into here, just any other company developments over these past couple of years that you think our kind of audience might not know about the company that you want to give a shout out to?
We're recently, so now we're in distribution, we're in logistics, and we're adding manufacturing into our portfolio. So again, we're just going to continue going forward to put time and energy into expanding those offerings, which make us a very well-rounded organization with a fair amount of diversification.
Best of luck on everything that we covered here. I think you guys just have such a unique story in terms of the youth-driven culture element that I really want to get in front of our audience. So Terry Albrecht, president and founder of Packer Fastener, thanks for joining us on the MDM podcast.
Great to be here, Mike. My final words for anybody that's still listening to this. Culture is not easy, right? Culture is hard. You have to be disciplined. It takes an incredibly long time to see the benefits of it. But there's an old analogy, the two best times to plant a tree are 20 years ago or today. I highly encourage anyone who sees opportunity in culture to not wait. I love talking culture. I'm incredibly passionate about it. I'm not sure if my contact information will be shared here anywhere, Mike, but feel free. I can do a much deeper dive with anybody who's curious about learning more.
All right, great stuff. Thanks again. This is Mike Hockett for the MDM podcast, signing off.